Hello and welcome to my channel where we talk about tips and tricks for teaching elementary music. Okay, here's today's video. So it is springtime, and in my classroom, things have been a little challenging with students focusing and staying on task and not distracting each other and doing what we're doing in the classroom and getting all of the activities done that I plan for each lesson. There are a couple reasons for that. One, it is springtime and spring break is a few weeks away, and I think there's a lot of antsiness starting already with wanting to be outside and not wanting to be in the classroom so much and just needing an overall break from school. In addition to that, I just had a really wonderful student teacher. She was amazing, but it was a different person than me, and she just finished teaching them a few weeks ago, and I've taken the classes back over. And whenever you have a different teacher, even if they're doing your same routines and procedures or the suggestions that you give of order of things or any of the other items that have to do with teaching your class or classroom management, it's still a different person than you. So whenever there's that transition from the student teacher back to me, it can be a little challenging to get the students back on board with what my expectations are in the classroom. So today I want to talk to you about routines and procedures in the elementary music room, because that's what I'm having to reinforce right now a lot. All right, let me start at the beginning. The first thing that you should do when you're thinking about your routines and procedures is look at the way that you structure your lessons. What I mean by that is, when you look at your lesson plan, do you have your dance song in the same part of the lesson every time? Do you have singing songs in the same part of the lesson every time? Where do you place your instrument playing? If one week your instrument playing is the first thing you do and the next week it's the last thing you do and the dance is at the beginning and all over the place, it's very challenging for you to keep track of where to put these things. And it doesn't help the students to go with the flow of your lesson. So create a structure that you can keep and use every single lesson, every single day. I teach kindergarten through 5th grade. 5th grade is a beginning chorus class, and that is structured as an ensemble class with warm-ups and going through repertoire and practicing treble spots and preparing for performances, etc. Kindergarten through 4th grade, however, they do about 7 different activities in a given class session. So here's my structure. As the students are walking in the room, there's music playing, and my students know to find the steady beat. They start by just patting their lap, and then I will give them patterns such as 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, depending on what the steady beat is. Then I will take attendance immediately after that, and after attendance I will play the same steady beat music we just had when we were walking in the room, and we will talk about it in some way, shape, or form. And that covers listening, like a guided listening portion right there. After that, we will sing a song that they know, a song that maybe they sang 2 or 3 weeks ago as a new song, and it's just a review now. Then we will do an anticipatory set of either rhythm reading if it's fall, where we're just going over 4-beat patterns, like ta, ta, ti, ti, ta, 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 to, etc. And in the spring, we will do 4-beat patterns of solfege, like sol, la, sol, mi, or something. Then, after that point, we will do a dance, then we will sing a brand new song, then we will play instruments to a song that we did the week before as our singing song, as our brand new singing song. And then at the end, we put things away, we line up, and we leave the classroom. That's my basic structure. When the kids enter my room and they're finding the steady beat to the music that's playing, they stand in front of their chairs and they are just patting their legs, and then they do that pattern, whatever pattern I give them. Let's say it's a steady beat in 2, right? And then when I stop the music, they know to hold up their answer choice in the air. So let's say it was 2 beats. While this is happening and the kids are filtering into the room, they can also see a visual schedule that I keep up on my piano. It's just attached with Velcro. It's on a piece of construction paper, and there's all sorts of pictures up there that show the students what it is that they're going to do on that given day. So I'm going to put this up here so that you can see what this visual schedule looks like. This is not an actual picture of it in my classroom on the piano. This is just a picture of the icons that I'm currently using. So you can see each icon represents different things like steady beat, singing. You'll notice that there's 2 singing icons up there because we sing a known song, a song that we're familiar with, kind of early in the lesson, and then later on we will sing a new song that they will learn. You can see an icon up there for solfege. You can see a picture for dancing, a picture for playing instruments, and a picture for listening. 5th grade is different. 5th grade pretty much just has the sing icon. One of the sing icons will hang out, and the students know, and I actually will write on the smart board warm-ups, and I'll write the list of repertoire that they need to get out on that particular day, and they know to get their music in order when they come in so that they're ready to just go from piece to piece and we don't waste a lot of time in transitions. So after the steady beat is done and I've taken attendance, and the students are very used to this routine. They sit down, I take attendance, and they know to tell me. As a matter of fact, some of them are so quick that I don't even have my book in front of me with my seating chart, and they're saying, so-and-so's absent, so-and-so's in the bathroom, and I'm like, wait, let me go through my seating chart so I can see which chairs are empty and write these things down that you're telling me. So after we do that, I will put the steady beat music on again, and I will say, okay, so now I want you to listen for something. It could be, what instruments do you hear? It could be, is it fast or slow? What are the dynamics? It could be, what culture do you think it comes from? Do you think it comes from Europe? Do you think it comes from Africa? Do you think it comes from Asia? It could be, what does this music make you feel? Does this music remind you of something? Does this music make you happy? Does it make you sad? So there's a lot of different things you can talk about when you're saying, I want you to listen for something in this music. I do find that if you just say, I just want you to listen to this music and tell me anything that you want to tell me about it, that my students tend to gravitate towards, I heard a drum. They tend to gravitate towards the instrumentation as opposed to, oh, this music was nice and happy sounding. They don't tend to go that way unless I'm telling them to listen for those types of things. So once the steady beat is done and listening is done, the next thing we go into is a known song, a song that they've sung before. And at this point, I usually give my students a chance to come sit on the carpet if they want, so that they can see the smartboard better. So I'm going to show you a picture of the way that my classroom is usually set up. This is not a full setup. This is not all the chairs that I have. This is a setup that I did at the end of last year when I was actually packing up my classroom for the summer, just so I could have some pictures of my classroom to use for this YouTube channel. But you get the idea that there's a carpet there, and the students could come up and sit on the carpet if they want to be closer to the smartboard. So I do not give my students a chance to come to the carpet for every single activity. Sometimes I want them in the chairs, sometimes I want them to come to the carpet. If there's something that's going to be on the smartboard that has words on it, and especially if it's something that has a lot of words on it, if it's something that is a new thing that has words on it, then I definitely will give them a chance to come up and have a seat on the carpet. If it is something that doesn't have words on it, for example, the other day I did with first grade the song Bingo. There was a farmer, had a dog, and Bingo was his name. And the kids know that song very well, that they didn't need the words up there. All I had to do was play the music. So they didn't need to come sit on the carpet to see anything. all of these routines and procedures are the choice of the teacher. In this case, it's me. So you can structure your routines and procedures any way you want. You can choose using carpet sometimes, using chairs sometimes, using no chairs. I actually know some music teachers that have done away with all the chairs in their classroom and have just put down either tape or poly spots or something for the students to know this is my spot. So whatever you decide and find that works for you. And sometimes that just takes experimentation. I've been teaching for over 25 years. I have not done this same setup of routines and procedures and structure any longer than maybe, I think about 15 years that I've been doing this structure of the order of things that I do and all of these routines and procedures that I'm going to talk about. So when it comes time to dancing, I always have to remind my students to walk to a dancing spot. Now, there are not spots on the floor where it's like, here's a dancing spot, there's a dancing spot. I explained that a dancing spot is a place that you can find in the room where you feel like you have enough room to dance, where you're not like crowded with a lot of other people around you, where you can move your arms freely and not hit people. And I do find that the younger my students are, the more overcrowding they tend to do with each other. They all tend to glop together as opposed to spreading out. And I find that I'm constantly having to say, spread out, give yourself some room, spread out, spread out, spread out. The older students, however, tend to just be like, yeah, I know I'm going to this corner because it's away from everybody else and I've got plenty of room over there. And always, 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 I'm always reminding my students to walk. I'm always reminding my students to walk to the carpet, to walk to a dancing spot, to walk back to their chair, constantly reminding them to walk. Because these students, they need that reminder because they get excited, they want to go to that spot to be near their friend, or they have a lot of energy that day and they want to run back over to their chair. So you just have to constantly remind them to walk because they will run into each other and they're not aware of their surroundings. They're not aware of the fact that there's somebody coming this direction when they want to go this direction and that there might be a collision if they don't pay attention. Okay, so let's talk about instruments. So when it comes to playing rhythm instruments, which my district does a rhythm focus in the fall, I have their rhythm instruments in their baskets, like maracas, tambourines, triangles, whatever it is I'm using is already in their baskets underneath their chairs. And when I tell them, okay, my friends in the front row, pick up your maracas, put them on your shoulders in rest position. My friends in the back row, pick up your rhythm sticks, put them on your shoulder in rest position. They are already right there to do that. And the students learn, okay, don't play them. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you here on this. There will be some students that will pick up instruments and start playing. And you have to remind them, but fortunately for me, my students, I've been teaching at this current school for 7 years. Yes, 7 years at this current school. So all of the students that I currently teach, I've been teaching since kindergarten unless they transferred in. So my students will be very quick to say, hey, rest position, stop playing, we don't want to lose points, all of that sort of thing. And the losing points ties into my rules and consequences, which I actually will link that video in the description box below, just so that you can reference how to set up rules and consequences, because it does kind of tie into routines and procedures. You've got to have that in place as well. So back to rhythm instruments. So it's time for us to play, and I'm teaching the maraca part, teaching the rhythm stick part, we play the song, and then put your instruments back in your baskets. And that's very convenient because it's just right there. Now, it's more complicated with melody instruments because, as you can see in the picture that I have here, the melody instruments that I use, the Boomwhackers are huge. They won't fit into any baskets. The full resonator bell sets that you can see in the picture, they don't fit into any baskets. The individual bells will, and I will put those in for kindergarten and first grade, at least the first few months that we're playing melody instruments so that they really can just focus on playing 1 or 2 bells at a time, whatever it happens to be. But handing out melody instruments takes time, because I will divide them up in 2 groups, because most of the time, and I'm the same way when I play rhythm instruments, we will usually do the instrument song, play the instrument song 2 times. And the reason we do that is so that you get a chance to play both instrument parts. So the first time, if it's rhythm instruments, you might play the maraca part on the first go through and then the stick part on the second go through, and vice versa. Same thing with the melody instruments. I try to do a boomwhacker part and a bell part. They get to spend more time on instrument playing, and they get that concept of learning 2 different instruments, and it's also usually different instrument notation as well. So it's not usually the same thing. Like if the bells are playing C, G, C, G, C, G, I might have the boomwhackers also have C, G, but they might be going C, G, C, G, C, G, or something like that. Or the boomwhackers could have a totally different notation. It just depends on what the song gives you to work with. I actually did a whole video on how to teach melody to my students. I'll put that in the link below as well in case you're interested in seeing that and learning more about that. Okay, so it's time to pass out the melody instruments. So I usually will say, okay, front row, make a line facing me, and I'm going to give you your full resonator bell set. Let's say this is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. Remember, 5th grade is just an ensemble chorus class. So 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, come get your full resonator bell set, find a place on the carpet, sit down with it behind the bell set, put your hands in your lap, wait for us to get all these instruments out and me to teach you what you're supposed to be doing. Boomwhackers I will hand out second, because usually what I will do is I will teach the bell part first, because the bell part is usually more complicated because of the fact that they have to find their notes on a full bell set, whereas the boomwhacker, they're going to have the 2 boomwhackers they need in their hand. They don't have to find any pitches. They just need to look at the notation and know what they're playing. And it's not that complicated if it's 2 notes. They're either hitting them together or hitting them separate. I've passed out the bells. They're all sitting on the carpet. The people that are going to play boomwhackers are waiting patiently and listening to instructions, so they know what to do a little bit when they come up to do the bells. And I might say, okay, let's say I'm going to have a back and forth like this for the bells to play, like on a CG. I'll say, put your pointer fingers in the air. So I notice no mallets yet. I haven't passed out any mallets. All they have are the bells. Put your pointer finger in the air. I want you to find white bell C. It's the C that's closest to that wall over there. Put your pointer finger on it. And then I want you to look and read the bells and find the white bell G that's a few bells away, and put your finger on that. And I'll always tell them, because they often will ask, why aren't we playing the black bells today? And I usually will say the black bells are like X, Y, and Z. Do we use X, Y, Z very often when we're writing or reading? And they're like, no, not very often. So I'll say, so sometimes we'll use the black bells, but today we're using the white bells for this particular song. And a lot of children's music is either pitched in the key of C, the key of F, or the key of G. So you're not going to be using a ton of black bells anyway with the way that it's notated. So anyway, back to that. So then I'll say, okay, so here's your pattern. C, G, C, G, C, G, C, G. And I'll say practice with your fingers, right? So they practice with their fingers. And then at this point, I will tell them to keep practicing with their fingers. I won't give them mallets yet either. I will pass out the boomwhackers and I'll teach the boomwhacker part. So whatever the boomwhacker part is, let's say I also gave them C and G, but I want them to go hit, 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 or something like that. And they can either hit, if it's that, or the C and G are playing at the same time in a fifth, a chorded fifth, then they could either hit it together on top of each other, or they could hit it on the floor, and I give the students the choice. They can do whichever they prefer. So when you are doing Boomwhackers, you need to make sure that you spread those students out in the back row so that they're not going to hit any of the bell people. And they need to be spread out so that they have empty chairs on either side of them so they don't hit each other as well. So while all this is going on, the bell people are sitting on the floor, and I am taking whatever the Boomwhackers that they're going to use. I have my Boomwhackers in big buckets, and I will move that location to somewhere in the room that they're not going to trip over each other or the bell people to go get their Boomwhackers. So I might move it over towards the door. I might move it over there. It just depends on what seems to work best logistically at that given moment. And I'll say, you go this way to get your Boomwhackers. Don't cut across the carpet. Don't come in front near me. Go around the back row to go get your Boomwhackers. So you've got to tell them which way to go. Otherwise, these students are going to go to the straightest line, the most direct line that they see, which sometimes will be walking in the middle of that carpet, right over bell people and over bells. So you do have to tell them which way you want them to go. So just think about that. And the same thing is true when you're putting both of those instruments away. If you put the Boomwhacker bucket next to the bell cart and you've got your bell people and your Boomwhacker people coming at the same time to put things away, that's not going to work. So in addition to placing the bucket of wherever the kids are getting their Boomwhackers from, you don't let 10, 12 students come at the same time, even though you have them going in a direction where they're not going to be stepping on bells. You don't let 10 or 12 students come at the same time to do that. You say, okay, my 3 friends over here, come get your Boomwhackers. And when you see they're sitting back down, all right, my next 3 friends, come get your Boomwhackers, and so on and so forth. So then you pass out the mallets, and it is a struggle sometimes because by this point, your bell people, you've got to be kind of quick with these procedures, these routines and procedures. And I will tell you, the first time you do it, especially, it's January when I start doing melody instruction. And it's been, in this case, it had been 2 years since I had done melody instruction because the previous year I didn't pass out instruments. So it had been 2 years since we'd done melody instruction. Everybody had forgotten all the routines and procedures that go with it. I had to remember what they were. I had to teach it to them. I had to get them used to it. And there was a lot of, hiccups and playing around when they shouldn't have been playing around and, knocking on stuff and everything else. It's also a struggle even now that they know the routines and procedures. Once they get those Boomwhackers in their hand, they want to go like this with those Boomwhackers. So you just have to remind them. Put them on your lap in rest position, keep them quiet. And sometimes I'm so busy trying to keep the train rolling because I'm passing out the mallets to a student to pass out mallets, or I'm calling students up to come get Boomwhackers, that I don't take the time to say, hey, stop playing your Boomwhacker, put it on your lap. And I suffer the consequences of it, and so do my students, because you gotta have the rules and the routines and the procedures, but here's the thing. You gotta follow the rules and the routines and procedures and make the students follow it. So you gotta have the follow through. And I freely admit that there are times that I'm just trying to get things going and I'm not quick to say, hey, put your Boomwhacker in your lap. So that is something that I'm trying to work on, is getting them to do that more consistently. And that's where this next point comes in. Don't be afraid to stop and restart. For example, you started passing out instruments, or you started doing any activity, for example, but let's use instruments as my example. You started passing out bells, and you've got students that are just going bang, 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 bang. They don't have mallets, they're just banging on it with their hands. Don't be afraid to take the instrument away or to send everybody back to their chair and say, hey, we're gonna start this over. Let's have a conversation about how we treat bells. Same way with Boomwhackers. If the entire class is just going and lightsabers and everything else, don't be afraid to say, okay, everybody put your Boomwhackers on the floor, put your hands in your lap. Let's have a conversation about how to treat Boomwhackers and how to treat each other with instruments around you and not, getting close to hitting each other. So don't be afraid to stop and restart. Also, there have been times when I have stopped and restarted before class even really began. For example, I've done this, I would say I probably end up doing this at least 4 or 5 times in any given school year, where a class will come in with just this energy level of just being like, just like really chatty, really not sitting in chairs, really busy, not focused, not doing the steady beat, messing around with whatever might be in the baskets, coming up to me and trying to have a conversation while we're listening to music. And I will just stop the music and I will say, everybody stand up. We're going to walk back out and we're going to try this again. You would be surprised how just doing that will bring all of that energy level down a little bit. There'll still be some energy level there because it's hard to make that go to 0, but it will be low enough that you can then work with them and get them to get on the train that you're trying to have with all the activities that you're trying to get moving and going, and let's do music class. All right, so this is where I want to talk about switching instruments. So when we're talking about rhythm instruments, switching is easy because I had their maracas and sticks, if that's the 2 instruments that we're playing that day, both in their basket. So if I said front row, pick up your maracas, we play through the maracas. Now we're going to play the song a second time. Put your maracas away, pick your sticks up. So it's already right there. When it comes to the melody instruments, we have to actually trade instruments. And the way that I do it is this. I will say to my friends that are on the floor playing the bells, put your mallets on the floor and leave your bells on the floor and your mallets on the floor. Stand up, make a line facing me right here. So they make a line and they're just waiting in that line. I will say, Boomwhackers, stand up, put your Boomwhackers on the chair and walk to a bell set. So once the Boomwhacker people have walked to a bell set and they have sat down, then I will say, bell people, go this way and walk to Boomwhackers. And that is how we trade instruments for melody. So now let's talk about putting things away. So I mentioned earlier, specifically with the melody instruments, we've got Boomwhackers out, we've got full bell sets with mallets, and the bell sets have got to go back on the cart, the mallets have got to go somewhere else, the Boomwhackers have got to go into bins, and all of these students can be coming all over the place and running into each other, and instruments could get broken and all sorts of things could be happening. So that's when you say, okay, I'm taking these bins for the Boomwhackers and I'm putting them on this side of the room, and I'm telling, okay, you 3 friends, go put your Boomwhackers away. Meanwhile, as soon as I say that, I'm handing the mallet bin to a student right in front of me on the floor with the bells. You get all the mallets. The bell people are just sitting with their bells. Then I go to the bell cart and I start calling up 2 or 3 friends at a time from the bell cart or from the floor to bring me bells. Just like you don't want to have your 12 Boomwhacker friends over the Boomwhackers at the same time, you don't want to have 12 bell people bringing you bells at the same time either. That doesn't work either. It takes time for the students to learn this routine of putting these instruments away a few friends at a time. There will be some students that figure it out pretty quickly, and they will kind of like hang back and either wait for me to call them to come up, or they might even be the ones to say, okay, so-and-so, you should be going. I'm waiting for you to put your instrument away. You're next. So there will be some students that will help you out a little bit with this process, but it is still something that you have to monitor on a regular basis. So once we have put everything away, then it's time to line up. Now, what I do is I have a chant that I created, a rhythm chant that I created ages ago from just a happenstance thing that I was trying to get students to pay attention to me. And I call them everybody rhythm chants because it always starts with the word everybody. So it's always said in rhythm, everybody. And the students know to copy whatever comes after that. And you could do rules, you could do directions, you could do You could do song lyrics. You could do anything you wanted to do after the everybody, as long as everything that you're saying after that is in rhythm. So what I do for the lining up procedure is I will say, everybody, everybody, stand up, face the right way, and get in line, Ow, 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 ow. And the kids are moving during all this. And I will say, everybody, stop all your jibber jabbing. Stop all your jibber jabbing. Stop all your blah, blah, blah. Stop all your blah, blah, blah. Stop all your talking. Stop all your talking. Ugh. Shh. And the students really enjoy it. They think it's funny, and they will do it with you because it's a fun, interactive lining up procedure. So my actual lining up process for the students to do is they stand up, and I have 2 rows in my classroom, and the person who sits the closest to the door becomes the line leader until the assigned line leader. Not every classroom teacher has an assigned line leader, but the assigned line leader can come up whenever they want to get their position. So they just follow in the number order they're sitting in their chairs. So in my case, chair 26 is the closest to the door. So my friend in chair 26 would get in line, then chair 25, chair 24, chair 23, and so on and so forth. Then it gets into the front row. So that's the back row. So then the front row turns around the corner and follows my chair 11 person and gets in line that way. And then I have another set of chairs that's over here, and they just kind of get in the very back. So the students kind of learn this procedure because I start this from day one. This is how we leave the classroom. When I say in our everybody rhythm chants, face the right way, the front row knows which way they have to face, the back row knows which way they have to face, and they just go and get in line the way that they're supposed to. In some cases, you will have students that forget this procedure. You will have students that get out of order because they're not paying attention. I don't really personally care what order they're getting in when they're leaving my classroom, but I try to get them to stay in their chair order just because that way there's no confusion. There's no like waiting for somebody to get in line. There's no cutting in line or anything like that. So on occasion, when you do have a kid that gets out of order of that, it's not a big deal to me, but it might be frustrating to the other students if they had to wait on them or they felt like somebody cut in line. So you just try to encourage them to go in the right way. There are also plenty of classroom teachers that have line orders in their classroom. So what I will usually say is I will have them go ahead and line up the way that I line up, which is just the order that your chairs are. And then I will say, does your teacher have a line order? Because I teach so many classes, I can't remember which teacher has line orders and which ones don't. And the kids are quick to say yes or no. And I'll say, yeah, if your teacher has a line order, when you get out of my classroom is in the back of the gym, so they have to go out into the gym to line up. When you get out into the gym, line up in your line order. And so that's how they leave the classroom. Okay, that's all I have to say about routines and procedures in the elementary music room. I hope that you got some helpful tips in this video. Whatever you decide to do, the 2 takeaways that I would give you is to structure your lesson the same way every time, whether it's dance first, instrument next, sing next, solfege, whatever direction you want to go in, the same time every way. That way your kids will know what's coming next, you'll know what's coming next, and it will be less confusing. And to have a routine and a procedure for everything that you do. Whether it is we come in the room, we stand up, find the steady beat, and then we sit down. Whether it is rest position for your instruments, whether it is how you line up, whether it is how you put things away, have a routine and a procedure that's consistent for that activity every time that you do it, so that the students will know this is how you're supposed to do this particular procedure. It will help things to move along more quickly and more smoothly in your classroom. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.